I'm live here. And we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Comic Vigilante. I'm your host, John Trent, and joining me today is my co-host, Jorge Arenas.
Hey, everyone.
We're going to start talking about RockPaperShotGun. Their website decided to go after Cyberpunk 2077. And they specifically went after Cyberpunk 2020 Mike Pondsmith, who CD Projekt Red's basing their game Cyberpunk 2077 off of, and they I think, what did he say? What did the founder, like, he kind of was trying to defend his writer's article, but then he also claimed he deleted the tweets here, but he claimed he's here. He says, "I love an argument that says this can't be racist because the imaginary people we made up made the decisions." So he is implying that Cyberpunk 2077 is racist.
Yeah, and what gets me about that is that not only did he try to make a big hoo-ha statement about it, but it's obvious that he doesn't know really too much about the game, nor even the board game it's based off of, or the person who created it.
Yeah, I mean, I think so the original complaint came from Rock Paper Shotgun staff writer Matt Cox, and he was lucky enough to get a demo of Cyberpunk 2077 at E3, and his title of the article is called Cyberpunk 2077's E3 demo is weak gunplay and unimaginative stereotypes. And as Spencer points out in the article that we published on Bounding, he talks about that there's, I guess the big complaint is there's these groups of ethnic gangs, and there's one called the Animals and one called the Voodoo Boys, and Evan, what is his name? Evan? Yeah. Oh no, Matt Cox. I don't know why I want to call him Evan. His name's Matt Cox, and he whined about these two groups and didn't like that they happened to violently attack someone after a white man in a suit told them that they were going to. And that seems to be like his big problem. Yeah, here, this is what he wrote. He wrote, "The violent black thugs betrayed us, as the corporate white man said they would. If CD Projekt Red are trying to subvert expectations, if the punchline is, but sometimes the thugs are really thugs, then it's not one that lands." So he's basically saying that the game is racist too. And then Walker? Is his name John Walker? British guy, John Walker, would defend it, saying, "I love an argument that says this can't be racist because the imaginary people we made up made the decisions." Yeah. And he got absolutely destroyed for that.
Of course, because a lot of people were pointing out the obvious. One, ethnically based gangs are generally very common when it comes to crime-based noir. Even in cyberpunk noir, you see that. I know in the recent Altered Carbon iteration on Netflix that was based on the book, you saw a bit of that too. Not as heavily implied as it was in the book, but it was there. Reading a lot of what he was saying is just, I'm like, come on, man. Were you looking to come in to complain about something beforehand, or did you actually play the game?
Yeah, I definitely think we were discussing this a little bit before we went live. I think that Cyberpunk 2077 has a target on its back, not only because The Witcher 3 was so freaking good, basically blew up the video game industry, just the way they treat their fans and just the level of gameplay and just how in depth it was, because they not only have a target on the back because of their success, and they don't really cave to kind of the Western PC SJW politics that these people from Rock Paper Shotgun are pushing. But Cyberpunk 2077 also had that issue where they made that joke about the transgenders, I guess, and I think that's where they just can't forgive, even with the apology. They just want to keep attacking, and they really just want to bring this game down. And I just don't think it's going to work because the game looks really good from what I've seen.
Yeah, it looks really good. I mean, don't get me wrong, CD Projekt Red has had some issues in the past. For example, we reported months ago about their lawsuit with the original creator of The Witcher. And you have the issues like you mentioned about the community manager who just made a joke online, and it was obvious when since the company's based in Poland, they didn't understand the context of the hashtag that they were using. So they just wanted to crack a joke, without the cultural context of it, and they ended up getting dogpiling the poor person. And now you're right. I believe they do have a big old arrow on their back, and these folks are looking for any excuse to go after them.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it's really going to work. I mean, you have Keanu Reeves is joining them, and I mean, the guy's he's like a superstar right now.
They literally have a living saint that's going to be playable with you in the game. I highly doubt they're going to be able to tank this game.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it seems like from what I mean, even like what I was seeing, like Cyberpunk 2077 was like the talk of E3. That and maybe like what Nintendo is doing with everything that like the cool stuff they're doing with Nintendo Switch, and then obviously Final Fantasy 7. Those seem to be the big things from E3, and Cyberpunk 2077 far and away seem to be like the top tier game. I mean, this might be like the next Mass Effect. That's what it looks like to me.
Well, I think some of it also is, John, the fact that E3 this year was pretty. If when you take away Keanu, when you take away Nintendo, even some of Halo's announcements, E3 was pretty lackluster this year, right? You didn't get a lot from the other major companies, and then you have also Sony not participating this year, even though we know PlayStation 5 is going to come live pretty soon. I believe either late 2019 or early 2020, last time we reported. So all they have to pay attention to right now is Cyberpunk 2077, and they're looking for stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what they're really stretching. But what I really liked is that Mike Pondsmith he actually responded to it and told these people to basically F off, and he did it on Twitter or on Reddit, sorry, and he said. So he said, want to say this just once. I'm really tired of well-meaning people on internet chat boards paternalistically telling me what I, as a black person, should be offended by. You want to be my ally? Go gird up your loins, and at this year's Thanksgiving dinner, have the nerve to tell your racist Uncle Bob to shut the F up for a change. And
He's absolutely right, John, because this is a perfect example. We have a white guy right here who is obviously not only ignorant of the game, but ignorant of the creator, telling a black man how he should feel about black racism. I mean, if that isn't
about characters he created,
if it isn't lack of self-awareness, I don't know what is. And I remember I saw in an interview with Yang Yang, his wife, if I remember correctly, his wife was the one who helped him create these games. So it was a black lady is the person who helped create these ethnic gangs that these people are being offended over. It's wild.
Yeah. So one thing that good that came out of it after like Pondsmith basically told this guy to like F off. John, like I want to say that this guy from Britain, John Walker, said, right, he actually apologized, but it's just a half-hearted apology. So he tweeted out this morning, right, let's make this all clear. I think Matt was right to raise his concerns based on his experience of playing the game at E3. I accept it was a bad take for me to call out Pondsmith's comments. I apologize to him. Note that he doesn't say that he doesn't apologize. This is why I think this is a fake apology. He says, I accept it was a bad take for me to call out Pondsmith's comments. He doesn't apologize for calling those comments racist. He's only apologizing for calling him out. And this is absolute garbage.
And it goes back to what he said. The founder, the creator of the game, said paternalistic. Look at the way he wrote it. Look at the way he said it. It's a way a parent would walk back on an argument with their child when they were in the wrong. So again, it's all over.
He's trying to talk down to him.
Yeah, it's insane.
And he's still talking down to him in the apology. It's disgusting. And honestly, like when I found out that he was a British journalist, it didn't surprise me one bit. I think that's actually one of the bigger problems with media entertainment is it's heavily dominated by a lot of British journalists, and they're pushing their thought, which is very different from how a lot of Americans think, into Well, it's not even. I guess tabloidy, but it's a lot of the rhetoric that they push. I mean, it's what we're seeing here. They talk down to you. They're British. They're very snooty and cold and haughty. And that's not to say all British are like that, but that's just kind of
Stereotypical.
yeah, yeah, it's a stereotype. But I mean, you see it. I mean, when we were really back, oh, was it 2 years ago? What was that guy's name? Kieran Shake or whatever.
Yeah. Oh
That
my god, I can never
that
pronounce
guy
his
was
name.
the worst, and
Sandwich
he
man.
was yeah, and yeah, Sandwich Man, and he's from the UK, and I mean, it's just yeah, there's just a pattern,
Oh
and
man.
you see it.
But yeah, I mean, it not only is a pattern, but it goes to show you that again, they're not interested in the truth. They're not even interested in reporting, even less. They're just interested in trying to rile something up. I'm not saying that there's some sort of grand conspiracy, but unfortunately, like-minded people do like-minded things, and we're seeing that all over with the coverage with Cyberpunk.
Yeah, and what's actually real interesting is not only are we seeing people like Mike Pondsmith stand up to people with Cyberpunk 2077, but we had a story today. I'm not sure if you saw it, but Claudia Gray, a Star Wars novelist, I think she's written 4 Star Wars novels. Her most recent is called Master and Apprentice. She actually had her assistant take to her official Twitter feed and tweet out that she was sorry for promoting this Star Wars survey that was basically that this Mark H. White the second guy was promoting. It was loaded so it would make it so Star Wars fans are labeled as sexist if they didn't like The Last Jedi, which is just a complete like media like narrative, which I highly doubt there's
It's
any
like a
validity
zombie.
to it.
That's the thing. These type of narratives are like zombies. You just can't take them down. They don't die, and it's unfortunate because instead of looking at the product that they produce, you want to blame the consumer, right? That's very anti-consumer mentality right there.
Well, right, that's what we were seeing with Star Wars. I mean, you were seeing with Chuck Wendig, you were seeing it with Rian Johnson, you were seeing it with J.J. Abrams. Even Ron Howard was getting into it with Solo. He was saying that he was like blaming trolling for the reason why it failed at the box office. It's just utterly ridiculous. But this is actually different. I actually think this is kind of like turning here. So Claudia Gray's assistant took to Twitter. She put out like 3 tweets. And she said, I thought the poll was coming from a legit source. Though I did not take the survey before posting, I did not do my due diligence on this matter, and I am so sorry. So she's actually tweeting out that she thinks that this entire survey is like illegitimate. I thought it was from a legit source, which implies that it's not a legit source. But it gets even better. So in her second tweet, she would say, Claudia does not endorse that survey, and I'm fully to blame. So when you have a survey that's literally been like created to try and make Star Wars fans who don't like The Last Jedi to be out as sexist, Claudia Gray's coming out and saying like the survey is total bunk. And I mean, she's speaking through her assistant, but I think when her assistant is saying Claudia does not endorse that survey, I think
But, but you
that's
see the
really
world of
telling.
difference. Well, you see the world of difference between Claudia's apology versus John's apology, right? There's some
Yeah,
sincerity there. Like, oh, I'm not looking to throw my fans or my readers or whoever under the bus. I made a mistake. I'm gonna accept the responsibility and just leave it at that.
yeah, like she took 3 tweets to like apologize. So she all like in the second tweet, I cut off the beginning of it. She said, "I will work harder going forward." Sarah, this is her assistant named Sarah, is tweeting this. I will work harder going forward to make sure the items we are posting come from legitimate sources, and will do a better job of vetting things like this in the future. I am sorry for any anger or pain I may have caused. And then she goes on to say, anyone who has met me or worked with me knows that I would do anything for Claudia's fans. I'm heartbroken that I disappointed them and promise to learn from this mistake. It's a world of difference. You're right to point that out, Jorge. It's a complete world of difference. It's an actual apology. I mean, she's literally saying she's heartbroken and disappointed, and I bet she probably is,
Yeah, I
because
mean,
she found out that this entire survey was just complete bunk and was used to just try and paint fans of the Last Jedi as sexist.
and generally, as a writer, you end up having a more intimate relationship with your fans because thanks to social media now, that social media has bridged the gap between creatives and those who consume creative work. You do get to know these people. You get to have that closer relationship, and you don't want to offend your customers. You don't want to offend the people who do support you, who work their hours every week, so that way they can take what's extra and purchase your product, right? So I'm grateful that not only did her assistant recognize the mistake, but took full, again, the last line of the second tweet, I am fully to blame. That's not difficult to do. That's only 5 words.
Right. And I think you're right with that. I think a lot of authors, especially the way the publishing industry has changed, self-publishing is kind of like really the way to go. You're seeing it with people like Blake Northcott and and
John
uh,
Arrows.
yeah, John De La Rose. Uh, I'm totally blanking right now. I should totally know who I'm talking about. Uh, but anyways,
even
there's
even
yeah. So
indie comic creators,
yeah,
folks
indie
who
comic creators. Yeah, we're
they
seeing it
depend
with
on their fans,
yeah, we're
right?
seeing it with Ethan, Mike Miller, even people like that Umbrella guy. He's got a comic going now.
Even
Um,
Doug, we had
yeah,
the other
yeah,
stream.
Doug
They
Ernst,
all
Chuck
they
Chuck
all
Dixon now. Yeah,
yeah, they all recognize the fact that, hey, you don't have to be completely in agreement with the people who consume your product, but at the same time, if you want respect, you have to show respect. It's something I assume that you learned as a child, but unfortunately, thanks to the advent of Twitter and other social media, it's something that people have forgotten.
yeah, I definitely think it is something that people have forgotten. Um, and one of the things that I think you're really seeing is like you're seeing a lot of these people that are respecting their fans, um, but respecting their fans doesn't also mean like you have to cave, like you have to like kind of cave to them. I think that's kind of like a tough line because I think there will be, I mean, fans will give you criticism, but you also have to be able to push back. Um, and I think
Yeah,
like how Pond Smith handled it. Did he? I mean, he pushed back. Although I think that criticism seemed illegitimate, anyways. But one of the things that a lot of these independent novelists have to do is that while Claudia Gray has written 4 Star Wars novels, she still has to either get a book deal from a publisher or she's self-publishing a number of her other series. Like I'm sure that like yeah, she's probably making some decent money with Star Wars, but that's licensed property, and I guarantee you, Disney and Lucasfilm are taking a nice chunk out of that.
exactly. And a lot of these
And
authors who write pre-existing IPs, they have their own work, right? They have their
yeah,
own stories that they sell, also that they do write. So being able to cultivate that relationship, especially if you look at through the ends of an indie author who goes through, let's say, Amazon Kindle, and they sell their books, you're literally your own community manager, and you're building up your own team. So the last thing you want to do is shoot yourself in the foot and insult the people who make what you want to do possible. It's a delicate balance, like you mentioned, but unfortunately, it seems that, especially with the more mainstream entertainers, they've forgotten the fact that people don't have to purchase the products.
no, they don't. And I mean, in the world today, we were talking with Chuck Dixon on our inaugural Conk Vigilante about a month ago, and it's like there's so much content out there, and people are just craving more and more content, and you're going to start seeing more and more content.
No more
Uh,
platforms. The gatekeeping, uh,
yeah,
and publishing's gone when it comes to books. The gatekeeping in videos is starting to disappear too. We see cases of major studios fighting back, especially if people are using IPs from pre-existing products like with Star Trek and whatnot. But you see these barriers are coming down for independent creators more and more, and it seems that more of the established media, the established entertainment industry, are trying to resist this as much as humanly possible.
yeah. I mean, just look at PewDiePie. I mean, that guy's enormous. I mean, he's bigger than most news channels and entertainment channels by
Giant.
himself. Um,
And he
But
gets a larger audience too,
oh yeah.
compared to oh my god, I mean PewDiePie gets more views than CNN or other major networks on their prime time. It's insane.
So let's kind of transition here a little bit. One of the things that kind of is happening today, happened this week was I don't know if you saw it, but we had some Spider-Man news, multiple fronts. We had it in the comic world, and then we also had it in the movie world.
Are you
Uh,
talking about the Abrams takeover?
yeah, so that's what we saw with the comics. So Marvel announced a new Spider-Man, like I think it's a 5-issue series, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe it's
Uh,
a 5-issue series. When I was looking at the Times article on it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so 5-issue series from J.J. Abrams and his son, 20-year-old son, Henry Abrams, and it's going to have art by Sarah Pichelli and colors by Dave Stewart. But what? So I thought it like when I first like kind of like saw it, I thought it was I read the art. I read like the tweet first, and I thought it was like, oh, Henry Abrams, is that JJ's brother or something? And then I saw the video. I'm like, holy crap, this guy looks like a teenager, and he pretty
He
much
is.
is.
Yeah, he bravely left being a teenager. And when I found out about that, I was like, come on, guys, are you for real? I thought it was a joke, honestly, when he told me. He's like, come on, this can. And then I clicked the link, and I was like, oh no,
Yeah,
no.
I mean, and I just was like, what I thought was really interesting about the interview with the New York Times was Henry said told him told the New York Times, Nick Lowe, the editor of this comic, reached out about 10 years ago. More recently, we began to develop an idea, a new and different and exciting take on Spider-Man. 10 years ago, Henry Abrams was 10 years old. So I thought that was really interesting that he would say that. But I mean, JJ kind of elaborates a little bit. So it sounds like Lowe was trying to get JJ for 10 years.
But instead, he got his son.
And then I guess he was like, I bet you it was like, I'll come in if I'll put my name on it if you give my son a writing gig or something like that.
That's what I'm thinking, honestly. I mean, it's nice to see that Marvel Comics can afford a big name like the Abrams, but right.
I mean, he's an employee of Disney, so I mean, he's doing Star Wars, so.
I'm sure you have to pay someone for that. I doubt that they can just get them for free.
Well, I'm sure that there's some kind of payment, but who knows? It could have also been in part of like it could have been some kind of like subscript in some deal, like those who know, like it was probably who knows how that worked out. I don't really want to speculate, but yeah. So JJ like said Nick had been pressing me to do a book with him a year or so ago. I started talking about it with Henry, and it sort of happened organically. So yeah, happened organically.
It took 10 years to happen
More like,
organically, by the way.
hey, said what was that?
It took 10 years to happen organically, by the way.
well, yeah, 10 years to happen organically, and it was like, hey, Marvel. It was like, hey, Marvel came to me. They want me to write a comic. Do you have any ideas? You like comics? And then his son probably was like, yeah, like we could do a new villain, and we'll name him Cadaverous. And then it's like, oh, here, this is what we've got. And they put their like top talent on it. They put Dave Stewart, and Sarah Pichelli, who was doing their. I don't know if she's still doing Fantastic Four, but she was doing the art for their Fantastic Four relaunch. So they put some of their top talent on this book. So they're hoping that it will do well. It'll be interesting to see if it will. I know there's a lot of Hollywood directors who have put their names on stuff, and I mean, it just doesn't really. I mean, doesn't really take off.
Well, I mean, also doesn't mean that they have an extreme amount of involvement either, right? We've seen
Oh yeah,
cases of that, so it's obvious that they're trying to ride the coattails on the branding of the Abrams, to see how far they can take this new comic with.
So that's actually something. Is Abrams' name really that strong still among the general public? I know Star Trek fans have some strong opinions about that, and you're one of them.
I bet Star Wars fans as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Star Wars. I think for the majority, a lot of people enjoyed The Force Awakens. Yeah, it was kind of what's the word? It was like repetitive, I guess, of what we already had seen in the original trilogy. Very similar, I guess. There's a word for it. It's escaping me right now, but I would say most people enjoyed The Force Awakens, so they don't really have a lot like that many issues with
Well,
Abrams
there are
there.
no real risks in it from what I saw.
Well, right, there are no real risks, but I mean, do you really? I mean, I don't know. It was an enjoyable film. Was it like as good as the original trilogy? No, but I mean, it was enjoyable. It wasn't as good as Rogue One, but it was enjoyable. It wasn't like horrible. It wasn't like The Last Jedi. I think people generally accept The Force Awakens. I don't think they view Abrams. I think the reason why Star Wars fans might have a bad view of Abrams is how he responded after people were criticizing The Last Jedi and when he started blaming fans. I think that's where you see some of that pushback with Star Wars fans among with Abrams.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not like he's not a talented man. I mean, I don't want anyone to come off thinking that we don't believe he's talented. He's very talented. He curated one of my favorite shows, like Fringe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was heavily involved in that, and I love that series. Even though Fox does a great job at destroying sci-fi, as any sci-fi fan knows, but it kind of feels like he has ADD, right? He jumps into a franchise, he jumps into a project, then he has something else juggling. He's juggling a whole other thing here, a whole other thing there,
Well,
and it doesn't get the attention it needs.
so that's actually really interesting, and I'm going to kind of segue here. So, yeah, if you mentioned that he's kind of ADD, that was actually confirmed. Uh, that was confirmed. So I actually did a little bit. I actually dug a little bit into that. So there was some other big Star Wars news this week, and that was the announcement. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Uh, that was the announcement of what's her name? Here she is, Michelle Rejwan. Rejwan. I don't know how to say her name.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try.
But yeah, so she was promoted to let's see, senior vice president of live action development and production for Lucasfilm. And what did she do before? She was one of J.J. Abrams' assistants. So it was really interesting. And I found this Marie Claire article from 2015 where she talks about her becoming a producer on The Force Awakens, that first big Star Wars movie that once Disney got in charge. And in the article here, she says, here, my job was to run his office, doing administrative tasks like handling phones and scheduling and securing approvals for materials that were for his feedback, blah, blah, blah. But this is where she says, one of the first things he asked was to make sure I stayed on him constantly, reminding him of what he needed to do, and I did. So your point about him like he jumping into lots of different things, I think is completely true. And Rejwan kind of basically admits that.
Yeah, she confirmed it, but it shows that when JJ has the attention to detail that you need, he can make excellent work. When he doesn't, and this is coming from a Star Wars, a Star Trek fan like myself, you're disappointed, right? And it's unfortunate because the potential's there, but you never see it executed right. And I just wish more could be seen, especially with a man that has the opportunity that has very few people have been able to touch massive franchises like he has been able to, right?
Yeah, what is he? He's gotten Star Wars, he's gotten Star Trek. There's rumors that he might get Green Lantern because he's moving. Yeah, he's moving. I guess there's a rumors that he's moving. I don't know. I haven't really looked into that one yet, but there's rumors that he's moving his production company, Bad Robot,
I
to
believe that
Warner
came from
Brothers.
our friend at Nerdrotic. He reported that a few days ago in one of his videos. That looked like Warner Brothers won the bidding war to get Bad Robot.
Yeah, so here's an article from IndieWire. J.J. Abrams goes to Warner Media. 9 upcoming projects impacted by the deal. So yeah, he's leaving Paramount, which is basically means that Star Trek is done,
Well,
movie
not done.
wise. I don't
Yeah,
know.
movie wise,
I think the
probably.
movie wise, it's over. At least for now. Without, I mean, I guess you have Tarantino still.
Well, I think they're looking at. They gave if Tarantino's taking over Star Trek in the movie universe, the way they're looking to, and this is not talking about the problems that they're having with getting Chris Pine back as Kirk or Chris Hemsworth as back as George Kirk. Um, they're looking to take a whole different direction because you and I both know Tarantino's style vastly different when you put it together with someone like Abrams or anyone else.
Yeah, I'm actually. I mean, so I know a lot of people were kind of. And I don't actually want to get your opinion on this. What do you think of that R-rated Star Trek from Tarantino? Do you think that kind of goes against what Star Trek
Uh,
is, or
oh my god, I'm conflicted. I'm very conflicted on it because I'm a fan of Tarantino. I love his work. I don't think I've seen one movie of his I haven't liked. Right, and it's his unique style of cinema that he puts together that it just comes together so well. So I there's the talents there, and I'm sure with the Star Trek universe he could really put a good spin to it. But having it rated R, a lot of fans like myself already jaded with what we saw with Discovery and them just, hey, we're just gonna curse and just do gratuitous stuff for the heck of it instead of putting some substance behind what they're doing. And I think that's what a lot of people are concerned with. But I think with Tarantino, if he's gonna do something, there's gonna be substance behind it. So I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I know some fans are a little bit concerned, but at this point, from what we've gotten from Bad Robot, what we've gotten from CBS over the last, what would we say, 10 years now, I have more confidence in Tarantino.
yeah, I mean, I don't know what was the. I think it was who was it? The guy who plays Bones. Was it the guy who plays Bones?
Carl Urban.
I think was it Carl Urban? Yeah, I think it
He's
was.
McCoy.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was Carl
Something like that.
Urban.
Yeah, he's super confident. Judge Dredd. That's what we
Yeah,
call him.
yeah,
Judge Dredd is
Dread.
super comfortable with the idea and confident, especially about Tarantino taking over. So I think it kind of gives a little bit of hint that the cast might be a little bit not might be, but could be looking forward more to a Tarantino direction versus a Bad Robot or Abrams direction with the films because they're already on the fourth film, and they had their big film in 2009, and it's been consistently going down. I know this last one didn't do too well, if I remember correctly.
I think it's the worst one. Yeah,
Yeah,
box office wise.
it did, and it shouldn't, and it didn't make a return, right?
Yeah,
Even
yeah, I
even
think
when
that's
it
what
comes
a
from
lot of
marketing.
reports are saying.
Yeah, so Paramount is part of the reason why Paramount doesn't want to pay Pine and Hemsworth what they're looking for because they haven't been able to make a return on that investment. Those movies aren't
And
cheap to make.
well, and I also like. All right, this might be controversial, but I don't know if they're worth it. Men in Black bombed with Hemsworth. I mean, that movie bombed. I
And you
mean,
know what?
has Hemsworth been able to lead a movie, a huge blockbuster with besides when he's playing Thor?
That's an excellent question to think of. Thinking about it right now, I don't think so. And the thing is that Hemsworth is not a bad actor. I mean,
Oh yeah, I love him in
he do
Rush.
great.
Great
Yeah,
film.
he does great. He can do great work. It's just that he's choosing bad scripts. I mean, the last non-Thor film
Well,
I
he's
I
trying to
saw
get
him
paid.
in.
I think.
Well, the last non-Thor film I saw him in was Ghostbusters in 2016, and I think we
Uh,
can leave that as is, right? So
yeah,
he has
yeah.
even with the chemistry between him and oh my God, the Valkyrie. You know who I'm
Tessa,
talking
yeah,
about.
Tessa
Tessa.
Thompson.
They have an amazing chemistry together, and if they can't carry MIB International, then again, they need to be a little bit more careful in their script selection. And I bring this up because that's the comment he made about not wanting to return to Star Trek. He had a problem with the script supposedly.
Uh, that's what he said.
And we reported on
Do,
that.
do I know we did, but like, that's what he
It's hard to
said. But
believe with his track record, isn't it? Where he's sitting there and you're just looking at the movies other than what's coming from Marvel, and you're like, I don't think you're as careful as you think you are.
I find it really. I don't know. The more I've like been covering this like Hollywood in depth, the more I'm just like, do these people like when they're looking at a blockbuster? When these people sign on for blockbuster movies, they're not looking at a script. They're looking at a paycheck.
They're looking at
The
Island of
only
Fire.
Yeah, they're looking at a pile of money. The only time they're actually looking at a script is when they're doing something like Rush. They're doing like a more like indie type project that's more
Yeah,
like a
film that's
passion
more
of
notable.
theirs. Yeah, they're not they're like I don't know. Keanu Reeves, obviously John Wick. He probably looked at that script and liked it because that was just a new thing. But when he just what is it? Always Be My Maybe on Netflix. I'm sure he looked at that script and like saw the part and liked that part in it because it was a little bit different of like kind of what we've seen
Not
from
only
Keanu
that, but
Reeves.
he was able to make fun of himself, right? He's like, you know
Yeah,
what? I'm becoming a meme. I might as well roll with it, and it just shows the sense of humor the guy has.
and he wasn't just making fun of himself; he was making fun of Hollywood stereotypes, which I was shocked that but it was Keanu doing it. So like obviously that's why you can get away with that because it was just which was great because I mean he was like this like super dick Hollywood actor.
And you know, he had to been pulling from somebody in his mind to do that.
Oh, I mean he was playing himself, but he was definitely channeling that Hollywood stereotype. I wonder who he was trying to. Yeah, I do. I wonder who he's drawing inspiration from for that. And if you
We'll
haven't seen
find
that
out in his
movie,
book in 20 years.
what was that?
We'll find out when he writes an autobiography in 20 years.
Oh yeah, but if you haven't seen Always Be My Maybe, it's not a comic book movie, but it's got Keanu Reeves in it. It's actually a really fun romantic comedy on Netflix.
And
I highly
it actually
recommend
is
it. It
funny.
was actually really enjoyable. Watched it with my wife.
I agree. I mean, if y'all looking for something just to laugh and enjoy, I recommend it as well.
Yeah, see, we don't always do comics. We like lots of stuff, even when it's romantic comedies. So let's get into that other. So we talked a little bit about Star Wars. We talked about Cyberpunk. We talked about Spider-Man. But let's talk about the other Spider-Man issue. So we have Zendaya here. She showcased her new red hair, and she said it was an homage to MJ. What did you think about her red hair? I think she looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I saw
Yeah,
that, and it really did bring out, Mary Jane's like, especially looking at a photo of the character from the comic. It was done very well.
yeah. I mean, as an homage, it's done really well. I don't think that she should like. I don't like that they're playing with the idea that she's MJ. I don't like that they use that in Homecoming. Um, and I think that like Mary Jane Watson should be Mary Jane Watson. If they wanted to make a new character, they should have called her like MK or something like that. Like they could have given her last name could have been like Kelly or something, or I don't know, anything, any other initial but J, and it would have been fine, and no one would have had any issues. Um, but Marvel is definitely like they're definitely toying with that. They were gauging like what the reaction would be and to see how far they pushed it, and especially with Sony. So I definitely like that's my issue is that they're intentionally like these people aren't like either they're really stupid and they have no idea that people would be upset about that, or they knew people would be upset about it. They intentionally did it anyways to push bubbles.
Controversy sells, though, doesn't controversy gets eyes,
Well,
John?
I honestly think that a lot of like they probably I wouldn't even be surprised if the studio asked her to dye her hair red for the press tour to stir up the controversy about Spider-Man Far From Home. Because honestly, who was talking about it before? Like, who was really talking about that movie before
Exactly.
then? Like, I know we weren't. There wasn't anything interesting coming out of it. Oh,
Not really.
Mysterio is here and he's from an alternate universe. Cool.
Pretty much. I mean, honestly, I know this might be some people may not like this, but if they just would have said she was MJ, I would have been completely happy with it. Like, she looks great, and it's not like she can't act. She's a really good actress. So why not just stop toying around with the idea and just settle either one way or the other, right? It's not a
Well,
difficult thing instead of leaving us there on the fence hanging.
Well, I think that's the point. That's the problem. In when they first like when that first like when it was leaked that she was playing MJ, that created a whole huge issue. Both Kevin Feige and Sony's Amy Pascal did an interview with IGN back in 2017, and in that interview, they both definitively said that she's not Mary Jane Watson. Mary Jane Watson's a different character, but they're still toying with this idea that she's MJ. when MJ obviously means Mary Jane Watson, especially to comic book fans and even to fans of like the animated series and other like obviously Marvel like media. So that's my issue is like I think Marvel's intentionally doing it
Yeah, because they know
and
what
they're
they're going
doing
to
it.
get.
Yeah,
Well,
they're
they
doing
knew
it to promote the film.
well, they knew what they were going to get when she said, called herself MJ. I mean, that who else calls her MJ? Peter Parker. So
No,
everyone
he
knew
didn't even
exactly.
call her that either, though.
Well, not in the
She's
movie. I'm
like my
talking about in
friends
the
call me
comic.
MJ. Oh yeah, in the
Yeah,
comic,
yeah,
yeah.
in
Okay,
the
sorry.
comics. So they knew exactly what they were pointing to. Like, hey guys, this is kind of here. We're gonna kind of tease you a bit with it, and that's the opposite of fan service to me.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was kind of a slap in the face. Hey, this character isn't MJ, but oh wait, she calls herself MJ. Like ridiculous.
But it was one of the few things that they did wrong with Spider-Man Homecoming, to be honest with you. That's it was a good movie overall. Um, in my view, I really enjoyed it. It's one of the better ones from the MCU. But if it has any glaring problems, it's definitely the way they treated her character, and it's unfortunate because there's just so much there that they could have used either one way or the other.
Yep. All right. So you wanted to talk about Star Trek a little bit more. I know we talked about the movies a little bit, but let's talk about kind of what's happening with on the TV front with CBS All Access and I guess Amazon and Netflix for the global audience.
It's weird. I mean, I know there was a rumor going around about a week and a half ago that Alex Kurtzman was out.
And who's Alex Kurtzman? Just like he's the
For
executive
everyone who
producer,
doesn't know,
right?
he's the executive producer of Star Trek Discovery, pretty much the boss man of the franchise and the CBS level. So he's involved in everything that is Star Trek when it comes to television, web, or anything else like that. And it was reported a short while ago that he was out, right?
There's a rumor. Yeah, there's a rumor.
It was a rumor that it looked like that he was out. I know a lot of people were really excited at the prospect of him being out, especially with Picard not completely being filmed yet. They're hoping, okay, the taint from Bad Robot won't go too hard into Star Trek Picard. But we found out this week that it's not the case. He was on Deadline's Crew Call podcast, and he laid out an entire 5-year plan for this franchise, which was amazing.
I do want to push back on that a little bit. I thought there was some stuff in there that could actually. I mean, I think that I don't know. I think that there still might be some validity to that rumor. I thought especially the fact that Discovery they aren't anywhere near production on the 3rd season of Discovery, despite renewing it, and he said that they've only written 5 episodes. Well, I thought that was really strange.
Well, it's not. If you really think about it, a lot of the writers for Discovery and again, it's a point of contention with fans of the franchise. These are very, very new people who, if you look at their IMDb, they don't have a lot of experience in the industry that you can find, right? So it wouldn't surprise me that it's taken this long for them to write a season out. And then another thing we have to keep in mind, John, is that it was reported that each episode of Discovery cost $8 million.
That was for the first season.
For the first season, right?
That was for the first season. I haven't seen anything for the second season, but that in that same report, yeah, they're not releasing it. But in that same report, they said that they basically made a profit off of it by selling the global rights to Netflix. And what's interesting about that, what I think is really interesting, and this is something that Gary Beekler pointed out when he was talking about the rumor with Kurtzman, is that they didn't give Netflix didn't get the rights for Picard. Amazon got those rights.
Well, it looked like that Netflix did not want the rights to Picard.
Yeah, that's what he was. Yeah, they were said they rejected it. So I still think
it's an expensive investment. Netflix. If you look at the crunch numbers, Netflix is still a money losing operation. Though they have a high stock right now, they're not turning a profit once you take out the gimmicks. So
I don't think that really matters, honestly.
Well, eventually investors are that big new money, right?
I don't know. Amazon wasn't making a profit for 2 decades.
True.
I understand where you're coming from, but the way that these media conglomerates are so big now, I don't think profit really matters.
They gone beyond the profit margin.
Yeah, I think profit for the company doesn't matter. It's return on investment for your investors.
That's a fair point, but still, it's an expensive endeavor just to get the international distribution rights, especially if you're looking to pump up your own original content. So it shows that at the very least, it seems that Netflix may not have as much confidence as CBS as many people have may believed. And then as reported by us and Gary too, CBS is currently in the middle of a lawsuit about Star Trek Discovery for copyright.
Yeah, that also might be why they aren't aren't really writing new scripts, because they can't steal it from what is it called? What are those time traveling things called?
The Targus.
The tardigrades,
Yeah,
right? Tardigrades.
they can't.
Yeah.
So unfortunately now they can't go on Steam and find indie games to steal from. So it looks like they're kind of being held up apparently.
Yeah. One of the things I thought was interesting in that Kurtzman report when he was talking about on Deadline's podcast was he wants to target a younger audience, which that's something that I don't understand why no one is really competing with Disney for that younger audience.
I think that's actually one of his smarter moves, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The partnership with Nickelodeon.
I think that's a brilliant move.
Yeah, I mean, the last time Star Trek did an anime series was the first time was with the original series with Star Trek the animated show back in the 70s, and it's still beloved. And I believe Nickelodeon is a perfect studio for a Star Trek show because they're the type of content that they're willing to go with, but the constraints are perfect for Star Trek. One example I can think off the top of my head is Avatar, right? A show with a great deal of depth, but it also kept it very kid friendly. And I think Star Trek can blossom in there. And I think for Star Trek fans like myself who've been around for decades watching the show, this might be the best piece of content that we're going to get at this rate.
Well, he also talked about the animation level would be on the level of Death Love Robot, and holy crap, I don't know if you've seen it, but the production quality is just absolutely fantastic on all of those episodes.
So again, I mean, it's very the 5-year plan. I mean, it's really interesting. I don't know if you want to like hit each point, but you have 2 animated shows. You have
I actually want to touch on those that animated plan because I think this is something that I don't understand why Marvel or Warner isn't really tapping into, and I guess Warner kind of is with Young Justice, and Disney's still doing it with Clone Wars, and they have the Star Wars animated show, and they're actually trying to keep creating new Star Wars fans. And one of the things that I know with me, I watch Saturday morning cartoons all the time. I watch Power Rangers. I watch X-Men the animated series. I watch Spider-Man. Like, those were things that like built. That's why these things are so huge now. That's because what we grew up on watching as kids.
Exactly, and for me personally, that's what drew me to comics, watching those shows. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You discover Spider-Man, you discovered the X-Men, and then you're like, oh, this is a comic. I'm gonna go look for this. And for a while there, I know DC's animated. The running joke with DC was that their animated universe was far superior to their cinematic universe.
Still is.
And it seems, still is. But they've slowed down on it, and it looks like Star Trek wants to pick up the pace because they're partnering with another major cartoon studio with Nickelodeon, but with their other show, Lower Decks, they're working with a major producer, Mike McMahon, who did Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
So it's a show that already has a lot of that sci-fi elements to it. So he's gonna be able to transition really well into it, and he's already a fan of Star Trek.
And he knows how to appeal to kids and adults.
Exactly. So he has the flexibility. He's a fanboy of Star Trek, so he knows the source material very intimately. So again, I think the animated venture for Star Trek is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of excited about that. I'm excited about both of them actually. Because what did he say? He said like 5 to 70 or something like that.
Right?
Is the age range?
Yeah, kids age 5 to 70, which excellent. I'm good.
Yeah,
That works for me. It doesn't mean I'm gonna stop watching when I'm 70, but if it's worth it, why not? And at this point, this is one thing I can say about CBS that they're doing right is they're willing to take these chances with an IP that is this rich.
yeah. I mean, and Star Trek does have a I mean, rich IP. It's been around since what, the '60s,
Yep.
with the original series. I mean, there's been, I don't know, dozens of movies. Are we at dozens yet? I don't
We're
know. I don't, maybe not that much.
not that
There's
much. I think
half a dozen, over half a
we're
dozen.
oh, no, we're way over a dozen. We're not
Yeah, there's
dozens.
there's over a dozen though, right?
Yeah, there's definitely over a dozen
Okay.
movies, but you also have the comics. You have many books,
Yeah, IDW.
right? So there's a lot
You have Green
to.
Lantern crossover. It was really good.
Oh my God, I
Star Trek
believe
Green Lantern crossover. They did two
yes.
series. Is both of them phenomenal. Those IDW crossovers that they were doing with DC were actually really, really good. I mean, DC, like literally they hit a gold mine. They did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Batman crossover. They're making it into a movie. And so I don't understand. Like, I mean, there's so many opportunities there. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's so much going on.
Yeah,
They need to do more of that. I would love to see an
and
animated Star Trek
and that's the
crossover
thing
with
about
Green
comics.
Lantern.
Well, that's the thing about comics. You have that sort of flexibility. I mean, they even had a Planet X where Star Trek and X-Men crossovered, right? So if you
Yeah,
didn't know
there's
that,
a Planet of the Apes.
yeah, Planet of the Apes, Doctor Who. So there's a great deal of potential there that they can go with Star Trek. And of course, people are going to be finicky. They're going to, I don't know, I prefer Alpha Timeline, but if you're going to do something with the
What?
anime series, at least
Alpha Timeline? What are you talking about?
are you seriously
No,
pro Kelvin Timeline?
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Am I gonna have to find? No, I'm joking. But seriously, there's a lot there, and through his 5-year plan, there's some good potential here. I'm still sorely disappointed with Discovery. It didn't make me want to get CBS All Access. I
Would,
gave it a
would
shot.
so I know that the like people really like the Pike and Spock stuff. Would you like? So would you want to see a Pike Spock spinoff?
Yeah, yes, they did it right. Right?
Okay, so that's something
They
you
had
did
good
like from
actors.
Discovery.
Yeah, they had okay. So there was a few things I liked about Discovery. Believe it or not, Pike and Spock were definitely the chemistry together was on point. It showed the actors and the writers who did that portion of it. They really were able to draw it out from the original series and other source materials. And then and believe it or not, even I actually enjoyed Michelle Yeoh uh, and her take on both the Captain and the Empress, but everything else was just not really there for me, right? So there's again, Discovery had a lot of potential. It just wasn't executed well.
Well, I mean, so we'll see what happens with the third season. I'll be honest, I haven't watched any Star Trek Discovery.
I mean,
Basically, you and Gary have have basically warned me to stay away, and I have not tuned in.
unless you
So
want a drinking problem, but no. But in all seriousness,
yeah, I'm still trying to catch up on Deep Space Nine. I'm actually really
well,
enjoying that.
excellent. Deep Space Nine is definitely worth it. Fun fact on that: the gentleman who does Candyman, who's Candyman,
Okay.
Tony Todd, he's a huge Trekkie. He's played multiple characters and throughout multiple Star Trek series over the last 3 decades. He's on.
Have you have you seen The Expanse?
I have not finished it yet,
Okay.
but it's
The
something that I have to watch.
Yeah, the third season opens it up for. It feels like it opens it up for a very Star Trek experience. Uh, so I'll just leave it with that. But yeah, I would definitely finish The Expanse. I dug it. It was really good. Um,
And
yeah, I
that's the great
definitely
thing
you should
about
check
the
that out.
streaming services now that we actually have a lot of good sci-fi out there that's coming out. I mean, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, they've all done an excellent job producing really good sci-fi. Even if they picked it up from network TV that canceled them, like The Expanse, they've done
Yeah,
an excellent job producing sci-fi. I haven't seen
I need to get
this
Dark
much good
Matter back.
sci-fi in Dark Matter. I haven't seen this much good sci-fi in one time since I can remember, to be honest with you. It's always been, a little bit here and a little bit there. there's been no real consistency. And right now, you just have so many choices. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's not just sci-fi, but we're seeing a lot more fantasy too. And one thing we got some news of, which I was actually kind of excited about, that happened this week was Rosamund Pike was announced as Moiraine de Modred, the powerful Aes Sedai in Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. So I'm actually they're doing it as a TV series, which I think is appropriate. Is how it should be done. I'm actually really excited by that. And Rosamund Pike is a top talent.
Exactly, and it's a great format too. We've seen, a lot of the best movies and series that have come out over the last couple of years on these streaming services have been novel
No, it's
adaptations. You know,
everything. Everything that's
it's a
been
better
good has
format
been an
for it.
adaptation.
Well, I'm saying that even if it's a limited series or a full series, that format's much better to be able to translate those type of stories than a 90-minute movie, right? You don't have to rush it. You can build up.
Yeah, and that so we're talking about like how I am excited about the Wheel of Time being TV series. I am extremely leery about Dune being a movie. But they also announced that Bene Gesserit TV companion series. So
Yeah,
that does kind of give me a little bit of hope. But
I hope.
I'm still. I mean, they have a huge like an all-star cast for Dune, but I'm just like, it's not really a movie. It should be a TV series.
I agree with you. You know what? The better you remember the sci-fi adaptation of Dune back in early 2000s. I think that was the
Yeah,
best executed version versus the movie
yeah,
and
the
even the way.
miniseries. It was like a
Yeah,
yeah,
it was like what, like 10 episodes or something like that. It wasn't that long, but
yeah.
it was long enough to where
It was
you
just
can
that was
watch
the first book,
Mohadi
right?
from. Yeah, it was the first book. You can watch him go from royalty to rebel, and then marrying the
Messiah
emperor, right? Freedom fighter,
to
and you can see,
Messiah.
yeah, you can see the character evolution in a good amount of time without it feeling rushed. Like, how did he go from this to that so quickly?
Yeah, I
Doesn't make
feel like
sense.
it has to at least be a trilogy of movies. Um,
And that's a
and I feel
difficult investment to lock down with studios. So,
unless you're Star Wars,
well,
which even then we don't even know if that's a trilogy. They announced 3 films, but is it a trilogy? I don't know.
I don't know either. But at this point in time, it just really depends on the success of this next film that's coming out. I think they're kind of doing a wait and see thing because of course I'm sure that it's gonna be $1 billion movie, but even if it makes $1 billion, there's a lot of overhead costs behind it. So they need a profit of a certain amount for you know how it is for them to believe it's successful.
Yeah, and I think you saw. I mean, you saw Ghostbusters in 2016. I think they probably wanted to make that a franchise. Didn't happen.
Didn't they set it up? If I remember correctly, it was kind of set up for another movie already by the time you finished it.
Yeah, I guarantee you. I haven't seen Men in Black, but I guarantee you that was set up for a franchise. Um, Terminator. James Cameron's already been talking about like doing it as a trilogy. I have.
Not
I
only that,
have a.
but scrapping all the movies after Judgment Day, just pretending they never happened.
Well, I'm fine with that. I have a stinking suspicion that what is it called? Dark Fate. It's gonna bomb. It's gonna bomb bad. That first trailer was absolutely horrible.
I, I,
It
I just pretend it didn't happen, and I hope they got a better editor to put something together because trailers are super hit or miss. I know in the
well,
last Terminator film, Genesis, they gave away a plot point, man. A really
giving
big
away.
plot point. Come on.
I mean, I don't know. Did you? I mean, giving away plot points isn't too bad. I mean, Fast and Furious basically has given away the entire plot of their movie in 2 trailers, and it's probably going to make $1 billion because it's The Rock, it's Jason Statham, and it's Fast and Furious.
Yeah,
And you also have Vanessa Kirby,
But
who's
Terminator wasn't pulling that though. They didn't have those sort of name recognition except for Arnold, and he doesn't pull as much as he did back in the '90s, right? He
well,
doesn't wave.
yeah. It's also, I mean, Terminator's like it's still like it's. I think it still has potential, but I just don't like. They're getting. It looks like they're getting rid of John Connor, and I don't think people want to see you basically wiping out your canon.
It would
which
suck.
is what it looks like they're
Honestly,
going to do.
if they did that, that'd be really unfortunate, especially since they had an opportunity to go from Judgment Day and move forward with the entire franchise. They have the talent there. They have an excellent director. They have an excellent cast. I really just hope that, not saying not to take chances, but know what you're doing.
I don't think they do though, because they are trying to embrace this idea of human and machine combining.
Yeah,
And I don't know. I mean, I
yeah.
guess in T2 you had a little bit of that where like
Well,
where
and
Arnold's character is like a father kind of, and
well, it
he
wasn't so much human and machine combining in T2. Is more of what is consciousness, right? And that's a classic trope from sci-fi.
yeah.
But so is human and machine as well, and they're not the same thing. And if they're looking to treat them as if they're the same thing, then it's going to be a really shallow film.
Yeah, I mean it looks like they're trying to combine the two, and I always felt like Terminator was like the whole point of Terminator was like the machines were bad. And like you had to stop them.
Well,
You didn't want to
it's
like
like
merge with
technophobia.
them.
That's the whole point of Terminator. It's technophobia. You're
Yeah.
the fear of what technology can do if not properly oversighted, right? If you're not careful with it, it can destroy you. That's the entire point of the franchise, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but they're
And
introducing this new Terminator who says she's a woman or who says she's a person, like a human.
well, they kind of they you know what the one with Christian Bale, that Terminator Salvation, they kind of toyed with that idea a little bit with the
Well,
gentleman.
well, they
Remember,
totally did it in Genesis.
they did it in Genesis, so
Yeah, and
I,
they did do it a little bit in Salvation. But yeah, I just like,
it's
yeah,
not working, guys.
no,
Get
it's
the
not
hint.
Terminator. There's a
Oh, that's a recurring theme. I'm like, guys, it's not working. Stop doing it. If it's
yeah,
broken, throw it away and do something else. Look at what was successful, and there's plenty in there that they can do without feeling like they're being stagnant.
yeah. I mean, there is. I mean, like you could even just. I mean, you could like. I mean, literally, like you could have another Terminator film like that's just literally showing the war with the Terminators. I mean, which they kind of try to do with Salvation, but I think you could do it. You could have another one like that too,
Oh,
and that would be. And
Salvation
if
kind of looked like a bad Mad Max film too.
yeah, it was. That also we need. I mean, we need a new Mad Max, man. Like speaking of Mad Max,
I want OG Mad Max has to be part of it. Sorry, I want to see Gibson, even if he's like old cranky Mad
oh,
Max.
that would be that like a cameo or something. Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
Anything that'd be great. That'd
Yeah,
be amazing.
dude, I'd be down with that. So what else? So yeah, we talked about a little bit about Wheel of Time. I'm actually kind of in. So what does make me a little leery is that Amazon Studios head Jennifer Salke described the show as Wheel of Time is endlessly fascinating and resonates hugely with fans. It's one of the best-selling global book franchises. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But then she goes on to say, and we were drawn to its timely narrative featuring powerful women at the core.
Hello, fellow ladies. It's that
Uh,
Jim Belushi meme, right? Hello, fellow kids. That's God. That doesn't scream pandering. I don't know what does.
I mean, yes, there's like powerful women at the core of the Wheel of Time. You have the Aes Sedai, obviously. You have the Sanshan Empire. You have all of Randall Thor's love interests, who are obviously not just love interests. They all have their own like. You have I forget what her name is, the warrior woman from the desert people, or the plain, like they're from the steppes or whatever. You have the queen. I think her name is Elaine. You have his best friend, Egwene. I think Egwene or Egwene. I don't know how they say it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the
uh,
thing is that they ruin a lot of these characters, especially if they're trying to hype them up by making them into Mary Sue's, right? I mean, what
well,
did
you
someone
shouldn't
say?
have that in the Wheel of Time.
Well, you shouldn't, right? That's the thing, you shouldn't.
These
But
women make mistakes all the time,
and a lot of it.
and it's for different reasons. Sometimes it's because they're powerful and they're trying to control Rand and his friends, and he rejects that control. Sometimes it's because they they are choosing because they're jealous. They make lots of mistakes, but they always learn from them. So I'm interested to see what they do here.
I mean, again,
That
it's
does
not
make me
difficult to write.
timely narrative.
Yeah,
What does that mean?
well,
That means me too. It means time's up.
Oh,
Like
man.
that's what that means to me. That's like what that's code for. Which I don't see that in Wheel of Time. It's the opposite. The women are like the Aes Sedai are manipulative people who are distrusted by most of the people on their continent.
But the thing is, I mean, to write good characters, regardless of their gender, you treat them as people, right? You don't say,
Yes.
"Hey, this is a special package right here." People are flawed. Let them be flawed. That's what makes a good character a good character. You're able to display not only the good but also the bad.
Yeah, and so I see that from Amazon, but then I also see they cast Rosamund Pike. She's been a Bond girl. She's all absolutely amazing in Gone Girl. I saw her in something else recently, and she was really, really good. What was it? I think it was like my wife loves to watch these the British period pieces, and I think she was in one of those. It was an older. I can't remember what it was, but it was like an older television show.
But she's got talent. She's
Yeah,
a really
she's
good actress.
definitely really good. So that's actually something I'm really looking forward to. I don't know if you've checked this out yet, but it just came out on Amazon, and it's got a comic book connection. It's written by noir and criminal mastermind Ed Brubaker, and the show is called Too Old to Die Young, and it's got Miles Teller as the kind of main lead actor. And I watched the first episode. It's actually an hour and a half, so it's almost the first episode is almost the length of a movie. And I think I haven't really seen this yet in television shows where you're doing like these really long episodes. So it's 98 minutes is the first episode, and
Impressive.
yeah. So it was like some people will probably be turned off because of the pacing. It's kind of a slow pacing, but it was gripping. There's lots of layers to Miles's character. He's like he's Los Angeles County sheriff, but he's a corrupt sheriff, and he's got a lot of things going on. So it's got that Ed Brubaker crime mystery. If you've read any of his criminal stuff, his criminal books, it'll be right up your alley because it's got that murder mystery, that noir, that dirty, grungy feel where like the characters are definitely not heroic. They are people who get their hands dirty and live in a dirty world. So I definitely recommend that. It was a lot of fun. I watched the first episode tonight.
I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, but it's not going to be for everyone because, like I said, the pacing, the way it's shot is it's very different from what you normally see on TV nowadays because it's very drawn out. You have a lot of scenes where the camera's kind of far away and it'll like pan very slowly to something important, and then and even just the way that Miles Teller acts, he's very kind of like he doesn't say a lot, and when he does say something, it's kind of like a to the point question. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, that does sound pretty interesting, and the more the merrier with these type of shows.
Yeah, and like I don't think we would ever see something like this on cable or on network television. So I'm really glad that we have Amazon right now.
The streaming services have
giving
really
us
given the TV studios a kick in the butt when it comes to
content. Yeah. All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Do you want to talk about Keanu Reeves a little bit more
the discussion
talking with Marvel?
Yeah, that's wild. He's like a skyrocketing stock right now, isn't he?
I, I, I mean, it's John Wick. I mean, John Wick has invented Keanu Reeves, and what's interesting is that he's become a mega superstar by being a badass male action hero in a world where badass male action heroes are basically persona non grata in Hollywood.
It's odd. Well, it shows that there's a hunger for this type of material, right? And what's great is that is he's a man that in his 50s that looks like he's in his 30s, and that just
He
drives me
doesn't
crazy.
age. He looks like
No,
he looks the same as when we saw him in 1999 with Matrix.
I don't get it, but you know what? I'm not hating on him. I just want to know what his secret is. But yeah,
Oh, doesn't he
don't get
tell you? I think he tells you he tells you what his secret is in that
really.
and I think he talks about it in what is it? What is it? Maybe something I forget. I said it earlier. Always be my maybe. I think he talks about that.
You think so? Okay, I must have missed it then, but it's
Yeah.
just it's wild, right? And to see him, basically, everyone wants a piece of him right now because you know the announcement with we got John Wick and you know Cyberpunk 2077 and everything. Um, I I wouldn't want honestly, I would not want to see him in a Marvel movie. He's good where he's at. Just let him keep doing his thing. There doesn't need to be a Keanu Reeves everywhere.
I kind of agree with you, and I think this what I find kind of disturbing with with what Marvel's doing is I feel like before, yeah, you had Chris Evans who had done Fantastic Four, but he was still kind of relatively unknown. Comic book
Yeah.
movies weren't like super big. Chris Hemsworth was basically a nobody. Robert Downey Jr. was washed up um, when he took Iron Man, and now he's like he like just completely reinvented himself with Iron Man. Maybe not reinvented, but he resurrected his career for sure.
Well, when they
Um,
did the movies, they weren't grabbing heavyweights, right?
no,
They
right,
weren't
and
looking for
now,
people that would overshadow the movies,
yeah,
especially for a lot of these characters that these gentlemen and ladies ended up playing. Of the general audience or the general people public didn't know, so they did an amazing job by finding people that wouldn't overshadow these characters.
yeah, and DC did that with Wonder Woman. They did not do that with Batman. I would say they did that with Superman. I think Henry Cavill, he was known in a lot of what he was known. I think he was in a lot of British shows, and
But he
he's in that.
wasn't a huge name,
Yeah,
right? It would have made
Yeah,
the
he wasn't
difference
a huge
between.
name.
Imagine if it was Tom Cruise or someone like that would have overshadowed Superman.
Yeah, and
Henry did
um,
not.
so so that's why I'm kind of like it seems like Marvel's taking a very different direction, and you saw that with Brie Larson's casting. They went for someone who had just won an Academy Award. They went for they're going for these people who are kind of have big names, which I think is very interesting. It makes me think that hey, maybe we're not so hyped on our actual movies that we think we need to rely on big name movie stars to bring people in instead of bringing in people through the actual story and the movies. Because
Exactly.
I think the phase one proves that you can do it with people who are relatively unknown or who were had been down in their career at the time, and you had good stories and you basically built a juggernaut over was it 10 years, 20 years,
Well,
2008,
Well, if they really
10
wanted to
years.
replicate the success of Phase One to the Cosmic Phase, they would have done the same thing and grabbed relatively new, fresh faces. And supposedly they were looking at that direction when they were trying to put it together. I just find it unfortunate because going that direction, you end up being able to pull up new talent that isn't always used all the time. And I think
And it's cheaper.
and it's cheaper, of course. It's cheaper to make the movies and produce the movies because they paid, I believe it was Hemsworth $100,000 for Thor, which is relatively really cheap for that industry. So to bring in someone like Keanu Reeves, who of course he's got the name ID, he's got the face, he's got the charisma. It kind of feels like they're just pandering. They're kind of riding the coattails of it right now, and it's unfortunate. They don't need to do that. They have a great formula. Stick with it. Bring in new folks and show us unknown characters that for comic book fans we might know, but for the general public we don't know, and everyone can just fall in love with them.
Yeah, I think Marvel has like, I mean, I honestly think they need to embrace the X-Men. The X-Men for me have always been Marvel's number one property.
Yeah.
The X-Men were always, to me, were always bigger than Avengers.
Avengers became bigger relatively recently thanks to
That's
the
the
MCU,
movies.
right?
Yeah, I think it's
And
purely from the MCU.
yeah, and it's just unfortunate that I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty upset when they canceled the Gifted. I enjoyed that iteration of the Mutant Underground. I thought they did a great job at especially when it came to the X-Men and the Mutant Brotherhood with Magneto. They did a great job at having them sort of in the background, but hey, hint, they're there, they are important, but the story's about these people, right?
Yeah,
And
and
it's unfortunate we lost that with the cancellation of the Gifted.
yeah, I think that was just a side effect. That's not the right word.
It was a reaction
It
to
was a
them being wrong.
casualty. It was
Yeah,
a
it was a
casualty
casualty.
of the Disney Fox deal.
Yeah, well,
Um,
not only that, but it just goes to a larger issue with the X Men in general that no one, since Days of Future Past, it doesn't seem anyone knows what to do with the property right now,
Logan.
except for Logan.
You have
But
Logan and you
equally,
had Deadpool. And I know this might be a controversial take, but I didn't think Deadpool 2 was all that great.
well, I wasn't counting Deadpool. I know
Okay.
he was X Force, but I'm
Oh, X Force. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
The
I'm talking
Insta
about the main
fake
team
X
themselves, right?
Force.
What everyone knows.
Yeah. Um, I mean, Logan. You had Logan, and they hinted at New Mutants there a little bit.
Yeah, well, they showed the potential with Logan, what they can do if they treated the X Men more with a little bit more realism, and they showed that they can go either way with Logan, or you can go with the original, three movies that Singer did. So there's
Yeah, I mean,
potential there, but it doesn't look like anyone wants to actually expand upon it. And you're right, the X Men were the flagship of Marvel.
yeah, they have the best. I mean, the X Men have the best stories. The fact that they failed to adapt um, Dark Phoenix Saga twice is just really, really sad. It's probably best. I mean, it's probably one of those things that is best as a uh,
Probably would be
TV
honestly.
drama, and we saw that with the animated series. So
I would have to agree with you. Maybe that's something that hopefully they bring to Disney Plus, their streaming service coming out soon. Maybe that'd be the best place for the X Men. You don't have to put them in the MCU, but give them a real environment to thrive because we've seen where they can thrive, and it seems that they're going every other direction but what works.
yeah, I wouldn't mind an adult oriented or like a mature themed X-Men series on as a on Disney Plus streaming. Uh and it would let you would obviously probably have like your core X-Men, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Professor X, Storm, Wolverine, who am I missing? Uh
Rogue,
Beast,
Gambit,
Rogue, yeah, Gambit. Uh,
well, she's more X Force. Sorry.
Yeah, so you'd have like a core X-Men. You'd have like a core X-Men team, but it would also give you the opportunity to like have like cameos and stuff too, where you could like, okay, so Gambit maybe doesn't join the team every time, and he like they need him to join in one time or something like that, and so they go and like recruit Gambit for a mission or something like that. Uh, and I mean, I don't know. I really I could see like them building like their own X-Men universe on Disney Plus.
I can too. I honestly, I'm one of these people with the opinion that I don't want to see the X Men in the MCU. It would be way too big, and it looks like they would have to break a lot of their canon to make it work somehow. Even if you go with the multiverse theory, it's I don't see it working out very well. That's just too big of a set of stories.
So here's my idea. We're already getting Disney Plus MCU TV shows.
Yeah.
I can see the X-Men joining the MCU through a television show, and I think I know Feige has said like, oh, it's gonna be 5 years before we see the X-Men. Well, you made a deal with Sony. You got Spider-Man in there within like less than a year in Captain America: Civil War, and then you literally push Spider-Man in a movie with Sony a year later. So you can do it in 2 years.
No, I agree with you. I mean, they can pull off if they want to. I don't know if I want them to do it though. Again, I don't want to see it in the MCU. Just let them be their own thing, and just treat it as is. Leave that wall up.
I I don't know, man. An X-Men versus Avengers like epic movie that's similar to Infinity War or Endgame. I mean, that would be really cool
No, I think so too. That'd be
as like a
great.
lead up.
Well, that was a great part of the original Civil War comic, right? You had that element in there with the Avengers and the X Men unwilling to be part of the mutant registry, the superhuman registry during the comic book series for what Civil War was based off of. So I agree with you. It can work where you saw part of the Avengers and part of the X Men team on each opposing side of the issue. So again, I can see that, but I don't see that right now with the way the MCU is.
Oh no, they'll have to build it out. But I do think that build out will be. I think it'll be through Disney Plus. Honestly,
I agree.
I think that's the way forward for Disney.
I
I
mean, if they
think.
try to come out with a movie, then I don't know what to tell them. That's a terrible idea.
I mean, I think
I
they'll do. I think they will still do movies. I mean, I think they'll still do movies. But I
no, I
think
mean,
the.
starting out with a movie.
Oh no, no, yeah, yeah. I think what they need to do. That I mean, I foresee a lot of stuff happening through Disney Plus. I see Disney heavily pushing their original content on Disney Plus, and I think they're going to have to in order to compete with Amazon and Netflix because
You have a
these
lot of
streaming have a huge head start.
well, not only that, but you're starting to see in the streaming industry, there's already a level of fatigue of having to purchase multiple streaming services, right?
I think people complain about that. I think they're still doing it though. I think it's
It,
still cheaper.
me, honest, it's you're right. It's absolutely cheaper. I have not paid for cable in years just because how much cheaper it is. But right now, I have three, right, and it's taken me a lot to even want to get the fourth.
I think I think what so I might have I feel like a lot of people have kind of my experience is the sharing is sharing among your family.
Look out for
So
us,
like
like people.
well I mean you gotta you gotta make some more friends.
Don't tell me
Yeah, it's
what to do
like
with my life.
um but no, so like I don't know, I feel like there you still have the like I think a lot of people still share Netflix accounts.
No,
I
yeah,
think people share their Prime accounts, so that I think
absolutely.
that helps. And Hulu, yeah, I think that helps alleviate some of that cost
I
burden.
was saying not Hulu. Hulu, you
Oh,
can't really do it with Hulu.
oh,
They
okay,
you knock someone off, like maybe one person at a time can stream, but you can't have multiple people using the service like you'd see with Netflix, right? Because
okay,
it
right.
needs to be all from the same IP address, and even then, it's still difficult. But I agree with you. You do have people who are doing the share thing with a lot of these streaming services, um, that allow you to have profiles on them, and that can alleviate some of the costs. But I don't know. I would like to see what they have to offer. I'm gonna give it like I do for all the services. I give them a month, right, or 2 months. If I see
Oh yeah.
myself not logging in, cut it. And the
All
great
right.
thing is
So
there's a ton of them.
say that again.
Oh, I was saying, and the great thing is there's a ton of services, even international streaming services that, believe it or not, are ridiculously amazing.
Oh, yeah, I have no doubt about that. All right. Is there any last topic that you want to cover?
No more Keanu Reeves anywhere. Leave the man alone.
All right. I want to talk about. I don't know which one do I want to talk about here. I want to talk about Final Fantasy VII, and I want to talk about
Oh,
Square Enix's ethics department.
I want that job, right? What do they do?
Oh,
Do they go to the screen and say, you know what, this
they,
just sticks out too much. We
they
gotta
pull
tone it
they
down.
pull out their ruler or their tape measure, and they're like, I think that's we need to tighten that up. Those are a little too big. Can't
Well,
have that.
the word titan came in the English context came from making it smaller because of the way it was translated, but pretty much you're looking for smaller bust, right, on Tifa. And
Yeah.
really, is there a need for an ethics department in video games? What really chaps me as a gamer is the fact that realism, right? They keep throwing out the same Keyword. We're doing this for realism. I'm
Ugh.
sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm not playing Mortal Kombat because I think realistically I can rip someone's spine out of their rear ends, right? I know I can't do it, no nor human could. And if that was the case, then we'd have a lot more problems than not.
Dude,
I'm not
I'm playing video games because I want it to be more like my real life. Like
yeah.
that's totally why I'm playing video
Hey,
games, you
hey,
know?
John, we're playing Farmville because we want to be farmers.
Yeah, I'm learning how to farm by playing farm.
I'm playing Sim City because I want to be a city administrator, right? Come on.
Yeah. Oh, it's just, I mean, the gall to actually try and like justify your changes. It's just, I mean, it's so transparent. It's so transparent because it's a lie. They are
At least be honest.
absolutely lying.
You know
They're
what? I would have
lying about why they're making those changes because they know if they were honest, they would just get shredded.
exactly, but you know what? I would have a lot more respect for them if they were honest with me because they forget. Most of us who've grown up with these games, we're in our 30s and 40s for God's sakes, right? Be
Yeah,
honest.
for the
We're
classic
adults in the
games like
room.
Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I played that game. Oh my God, I hate doing this. A long time ago, right? So I'm an adult. I'm an adult man. We're both adult men. Adult men and women are the ones who are consuming this product. We don't need to be treated like we're 13-year-old kids.
Well,
We
there's
know what
13-year-olds
we're.
that are going to probably buy Final Fantasy VII too.
Yeah, but that's up to the parents, right? I mean,
Right,
I
right.
don't see
Yeah.
major movie studios making these type of cuts and whatnot to movies because they're like, oh, don't want little Timmy or little Jane to see this. They just rate the movies, so that way the parents are the ones who are in charge of the purchase.
Well, they do censor. Hollywood does censor their movies, especially for
Clear about it.
foreign audiences, especially in China.
Yeah, oh, you beat me to it. Depends on where they're distributing. Like China's a big place
Yeah,
where you see a lot of, and that you see that also in video games. I
and
know World of Warcraft fans should know this. The WoW version, the version of World of Warcraft in China, the undead is very different than what we see. The undead race, the Forsaken, is very different in China than what you would see in America, Russian, or even EU servers, right? And the lack of blood. So there's a lot
yeah,
of major
they
differences.
banned blood. You can't have blood on shooters. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we bleed jelly apparently.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, the fact that they have an ethics department. Why are you spending tens of thousands of dollars to employ people to creatively restrict your developers? I just don't understand it. You're just burning money. Like what?
Well,
Like
it's
it's
unfortunate.
ridiculous.
Well, it's unfortunate because that signals to me that they're not confident in their own employees. That's what that's telling me. They need an ethics department because they don't have the confidence in their employees to make good decisions, to have some sort of oversight within themselves or within the organization. They need some sort of ethics department to oversee everything. And that again, they're treating their employees like they're treating their customers, like children, and that's just a bad road to go.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, we're seeing it over and over and over again. I mean, for the most part, I'm fine with. I like Tifa's new design. I think it looks really good. I just find it ridiculous that like they have this ethics department.
Yeah, it wasn't the
eh, eh,
fact that her design bothered me. I'm in complete agreement with you. It's the fact that they needed an ethics department to tell them what to do about a bus size that is realistic, whether they want to admit it or not. Right? I
yeah,
know what a YouTuber, she made a comment about
yeah,
that.
Liana Kursner.
Yeah, she made a comment. She is absolutely right. Guess what? Real women do have curves, guys and
Yeah,
gals.
she showed a picture of her bra with the bus size on it, and it was like double H or something like that.
Exactly.
And it was
So
like, hi, real people have big boobs. Like it's a real thing.
And guess what? When you want, I mean, I'm a martial artist for the last 25 years, right? And I have had students and I've had fellow practitioners wherever I've been of different shapes and sizes, and they have what they have, right? So they can still fight though. They just make adjustments to make it work. So to make the excuse like the ethics department said that they're trying to make the fighting more realistic is pretty asinine.
Oh, and who cares if it's realistic? It's called Final Fantasy. Fantasy.
In a game
Like,
where you melee a train.
Yes, I know. I mean, the game is called Final Fantasy. It is a fiction. It is fantastical.
Well, I want to see how they're gonna make it realistic. I can't remember the character's name,
Dude,
but he
they're gonna
power
summon
slams
fire,
something.
bro.
Say what?
They're gonna summon fire and
Oh
water
yeah,
and lightning, and it's all
yeah.
realistic from their
Super
hands.
right. Give them, they're gonna be the avatar, right? They're gonna be the air and the water and the firebend.
Yeah, I'm just so shocked that and then it wasn't just so it wasn't just Tifa's chest that was the issue here. They're also having issues with this honeybee inn scene, which I actually found a old video of it, and I mean he dresses up in a dress like to infiltrate
Well,
this
you know what that
brothel.
tells
Like
me,
I mean I feel like that's a
John.
scene
You know what
all you
that
see all
tells
the
me right
time.
there? That tells me that if they were to release the movie Tootsie with Dustin Hoffman, people would freak out.
Oh, I no doubt, no doubt. But I mean, that's like basically what Mulan does. I just don't
Yeah,
understand it.
same thing. Mulan
She
did the
dresses up
same
as a
thing.
man so she can infiltrate the Japanese or the Chinese army.
So she can fight with them, right, against
Yeah,
the incoming horde. So to pretend that the cross dressing hasn't been an element in video games and other forms of entertainment like movies and TV shows is just silly.
yeah. It's just, I mean, it just
It shows that they're walking. They're more
it's
concerned about
cowardice.
walking. Well, they're more concerned about walking on eggshells than actually producing good product. And they should be concerned about the product. Fans are fans. They will buy good games. Just allow us to enjoy the games.
And the gameplay looked really, really good. Plus, they said there was going to be on 2 discs, and they're basically adding in like a whole new game, is what it sounded like in their announcement. So it's not just like a remake; they're adding in like a whole new.
Set of chapters, it seems. I mean, I
Yeah,
was actually surprised that they didn't tease Sephiroth in the
yeah.
teaser. I didn't see him.
I thought he was there in the maybe not. I thought I saw him in one of the trailers. I thought he was there in the trailer.
I may have missed it, but I mean, you're right. There's a lot there that they can do. I mean, I know this
Yeah,
isn't the first time they've either remade Final Fantasy VII or they've expanded into it. There have been other games in the past that have done this, so this isn't really all that new. They're just
yeah. I
giving
mean,
graphics to it.
well, I think this is new. I mean, from what I understood, they are updating the graphics. They've updated the gameplay. They're obviously making story changes with like the Honeybee Inn and stuff like that. But I mean, from what they announced at E3 is that they stated that there's basically like a whole second game that comes with when you purchase it on the 2 discs.
I mean, I'm hopeful still. It's a darn good series. I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy all the way through. Um,
Not
I'm
all the way through. No,
no you
no.
no.
I love 12 was where I joined in. I loved it, and I went back and played some of the older ones. I play a lot. I
You
even
didn't
play the
like
mobile games.
X1 or I mean X2. That was funny.
No, X2, yeah, 12. That's my favorite.
No, no. Final Fantasy 10 2. There's a
Oh yeah, 10. Oh, 10's great. I haven't played the remake. I haven't played the HD. I haven't played that new one. 13 though is not good.
well,
Uh,
it's like any film series. You have your hit or misses.
yeah,
There's a
and
lot of good games that thankfully for
15
the most
is.
part are contained within themselves, which makes it even better. Like I love number 8. I'm a huge fan of number 8.
I love 12. I love Vaughn. I love Pinello. I love Baltier. I love Fran. I just love those characters. Uh, and that gameplay is it's just really fun too.
Well, we'll see what happens with Final Fantasy 12. I mean, sorry, Final Fantasy 7. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see
Yeah,
more though. I want to see more information. I really hope they stop shooting this, tripping themselves over really mundane issues that no one really cares about who purchases these games. No one does.
yeah, I think you're right there. All right, well, I think that's it for tonight. Unless there was anything else you wanted to talk about, Jorge.
No, I'm good. I think we hit it all pretty well.
All right, thank you all for joining us. You have been listening to the Comic Vigilante. We talked about a lot of stuff tonight.
We did a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So tomorrow night I will be on Gary Beekler's channel, Nerdrotic, and we will be reviewing episode 4 of DC Universe's Swamp Thing. I'm looking forward to that. The first 3 episodes have been absolutely excellent. So I will be there. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And then we'll be back here next week. And we will have a special guest with us next week. So I think we'll be at our normal time Wednesdays at 9 Eastern. So look forward to come back to us then. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you all have a great night.
Have a great
And
night.
we'll see you on the website tomorrow. We got a lot of stuff coming up. Jorge's got a Yakuza article. We're going to be talking about some loot boxes with EA, and we'll be covering some breaking news. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Once again, I'm John Trent, and this is my co-host.
Jorge Arenas.
All right, y'all have a good night.